Whether a farmer grows corn and soybeans or blueberries and apples, our farmers need domestic marketing opportunities to stimulate growth throughout our country. They need it now more than ever, as you pointed out, Mr. Chairman. Few ideas I'd toss out there. One is E15, making that permanent and year-round. There is bipartisan support for this, and I want to thank Senator Fisher and Duckworth and so many others who have worked on this issue. We need to get it done. Bipartisan Farm Bill seems to me a vehicle where we can get it done, but there may be others as well. We can also expand domestic opportunities by investing in local markets, by purchasing fresh produce and meat from small and mid-sized farmers. We can support local supply chains and families. I was frustrated to see the administration cancel the popular local food purchasing assistance program last year, and I hope that we can reinstate this investment. We can also invest in organic agriculture, expand support for rural businesses, and invest in research to develop new revenue streams for farmers. I've long supported bipartisan efforts to grow new domestic production of sustainable aviation fuel, bio-based products, and industrial hemp. There's a lot more we can do on hemp. That's a subject for another day, but this is a growing market that we should be looking at and not going backwards on. These opportunities provide farmers with innovative sources of revenue amidst a difficult farm economy. It's no secret that we are exploring these domestic marketing opportunities. We would be anyway, but the chaos caused by our tariff and trade policy is causing many, many issues. I appreciate my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who have joined me in pushing back on the tariffs. The impacts of the tariffs, record high input costs, and the need to invest in domestic markets are top of mind for Minnesota farmers. I recently held 2 roundtables, one in southern Minnesota, one in Breckenridge in western Minnesota, where I heard directly about the uncertainty facing our farmers and ranchers. And that is the hardest thing for so many of them. A tariff changes, it goes up, it goes down, they don't know what to plant, they don't know what to invest in. And then in the end, it gets harder and harder. So the best thing we can do in addition to having less of these tariffs and have them much more targeted using a chisel or a hammer instead of a sledgehammer would be good. And the second thing would be a bipartisan 5-year farm bill that meets the moment. Farmers need reliable access to credit, modernized conservation programs, and new uses for their products. These ideas could be included in a bipartisan farm bill. And at the same time, our farmers and ranchers are struggling. We also have families struggling. Paychecks are stretched because of rising grocery and healthcare costs and now gas costs, just as our anti-hunger programs face the steepest cuts in a generation. We must do something here. And I did not like the way these state shifts went on SNAP. I understand that our colleagues would engage in some cuts to SNAP this last summer, and I'm hoping we can get to a better place. I think it's really important for people to know that because of the way this was structured with the highest error rate states getting off scot-free, 10 of them, and the lowest error rate states, of course, not having to pay. There's a whole bunch of us in the middle, as in the entire Midwest. They're going to see enormous cost shifts to our states and in some states, counties. That is why the bipartisan National Governors Association, I'm not talking about the Democratic Governors Association, the National Governors Association have come out with a proposal to delay these cost shifts, the National Conference of State Legislatures and other state and local officials. We should give the states the time to get their error rates down, and we should delay these cost shifts, and we certainly shouldn't be benefiting high error rate states over ones that have lower error rates. So I hope as we look at a farm bill, and I know there's work being done over in the House, that we include some corrections to what happened last summer. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to today's discussion.
You, Mr. Bower. Thank you. Chairman Bozeman, Ranking Member Klobuchar, members of the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry, thank you for your invitation to testify today. Again, my name is Jed Bower. I'm a fifth-generation farmer from Washington Courthouse, Ohio. I grow corn and soybeans with my wife, Emily, and my children, Ethan and Emma. I currently serve as the president for National Corn Growers Association. Founded in 1957, NCGA represents more than 36,000 dues-paying corn growers in 48 states, an interest of more than 500,000 farmers who contribute through their corn checkoff programs in their states. It is an honor to testify before the committee today. In this hearing on domestic demand expansion could not come at a more critical time for our industry. 2026 is America's 250th year, and in those 250 years, corn has been foundational to the American success story. Unfortunately, the legacy that generations of corn growers have built is in jeopardy. Today, corn farmers are facing many challenges, and the ability of the next generation to take over the farm is in question for too many families right now, including my own. With the next 250 years in mind, NCGA is doubling down on a demand agenda to diversify near and long-term market opportunities for corn and corn products. While my written testimony covers a broader range of topics that are important to growers, profitability, such as trade and risk management, because today's hearing is focused on domestic demand, I will concentrate on two key domestic demand priorities: expanding markets for ethanol and scaling the utilization of bio-based products. Since its inception, the ethanol industry has strengthened rural economies, created jobs, and driven farmer profitability. Today, over a third of each year's crop is turned into fuel. We believe there is room for growth in on-road, marine, and aviation fuels. First, year-round access to E15 is critical. Farmers have waited far too long for this simple, deregulatory bill to be passed. Aside from the economic boost it would provide to farmers, year-round E15 would lead to significant savings for American consumers, strengthen U.S. energy dominance at a time when geopolitics are complicating markets and supply chains. And I want to thank Chairman Bozeman and Ranking Member Klobuchar for their public support of year-round E15. Second, the renewable fuel standard remains the cornerstone of biofuels policy. Strong, predictable, renewable volume obligations are essential. They give farmers, ethanol producers, and fuel retailers the confidence to invest and grow. We appreciate the EPA's current approach and look forward to seeing the finalized 2026-2027 RVOs as soon as possible. Beyond maintaining current markets, we must look toward the future and new opportunities for biofuels to help decarbonize the transportation sector. One of the most promising is sustainable aviation fuel. Corn-based ethanol can play a major role as a feedstock for producing SAF. The 45Z tax credit, which Congress wisely extended in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, is poised to help stimulate the expansion in the rising industry. Corn growers are also actively exploring ethanol and marine fuel. This has potential to be a 4 billion gallon market within the next 5 years. This market symbolizes an unprecedented opportunity for American corn farmers. Bio-based products represent an important growing economic opportunity for farmers. When corn and ethanol are used as feedstocks, they also present a more environmentally sustainable alternative for ingredients in many products that Americans use in their everyday lives, such as fibers and polymers. Capturing just 10% of the global plastics market with bio-based alternatives could generate a demand for an additional 15 billion bushels of corn. NCGA is working with industry partners to develop legislation to establish a federal tax incentive that would encourage the conversion of U.S.-grown agricultural feedstocks into renewable chemicals and materials. This investment and production credit would diversify demand for agricultural products, strengthen domestic biomanufacturing, and stimulate rural economies. We encourage Congress to invest in these tools. In closing, I thank the chairman, the ranking member, and the members of the committee once again for today's focus on expanding domestic demand markets for U.S. agricultural products. This objective is imperative to our future. I implore all members of Congress to work with us to advance real solutions like the ones that are discussed here today. Please fight with us to secure the next 250 years of farming.
I've long led bipartisan efforts, along with so many of my colleagues, to make E15 available year-round. I appreciate so many of you bringing it up. It's an obvious solution to what we're facing now, which is some higher gas prices, which we weren't facing a few months ago. It seems to me like the moment to seize to show that we have a diversified fuel supply, and it's already, 10% of our fuel, and I just think this would be the smartest thing to at least send a message to those soybean and corn farmers that this is a market that we want to fill, and this is the time to do it. So new economic analysis from the University of Missouri shows that E15 is currently saving drivers about 25 cents per gallon. Mr. Bower, with the cost of production being so far above the current price of corn, what would the availability of year-round E15 and higher blends of ethanol mean for corn growers across the country?
Well, Ranking Member Klobuchar, thank you for the question. Absolutely tremendous. As we look at potentially our fourth year losses in a row, and trying to, at least on my personal farm, trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for my inputs that are so drastically out of line. As we look at what E15 could potentially do for growers, for every 1% we increase that blend wall. So as we go from 10 to 11 to 12 and on up, for every 1%, that's 490 million bushels of grind. So for farmers, it varies depending on the market, but we're looking at maybe 35 cents a bushel. Some numbers are lower than that, but any relief right now is tremendous for growers.
I think of it as fuel we need right now. And so if we put you in such perilous position, if the government policies do that, with tariffs and the like, that you're not able to keep producing, then we're going to be really screwed because those aren't your words, because with the way gas prices are going right now, I think it's a real problem. This is a great moment to do that.